everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Essays and Espresso podcast. I'll be your host today, Aesir Aesthetics, and with me today are our usual co-hosts, Bogan, Jima.
Why are you hosting?
I thought we agreed I was gonna host.
We did.
Oh fuck!
I think
in for a
Bogan
rough
was just.
time, though.
Oh my god.
Yes, hello.
Guys. Hello, Bogan. Hello. How are we today?
I'm gonna drink for this podcast because we're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Something other than espresso.
Yes. I'm spiking my espresso with Canadian whiskey.
Ooh. Imported Canadian whiskey. And our other co-host, Daniel.
Hi.
You already heard from him, though. He was laughing.
Yes.
I'm gonna have a drink of water.
I was. This is gonna be a fun podcast.
In this podcast, we're going to be talking, eventually, about the game of the generation and the sort of criteria that game needs to meet, the sort of idea behind that. I think everybody will have a pretty interesting way to frame that conversation. But before we do, we're gonna talk about some of the stuff that's been going on in our lives since last we did this podcast. What do you guys want to talk about first?
I want to know why Boken Jima wants to talk about Blade Runner 2049 all of a sudden. What's up with that?
All of a sudden, what?
What's up?
I mean, I watched it, and it's a terrific movie.
It's so good.
But did you just decide to rewatch it?
Yes,
recently?
I did. I mean, I decided to actually watch it a second time because the first time was incredible already, and then I had one lazy evening, and it was already 10 p.m. or something, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna watch the first half and then go to bed. And then next time I looked at the clock, it was 3 hours later, and the movie was over, and I was like, that is a fucking fantastic movie. And in my mind, it's probably the best movie of the last 10 years, I'd say.
Was it worth the lost sleep?
Yeah, I don't think I had anything the next day, so whatever.
It's the best movie of the last 10 years. But was it worth the lost sleep?
I mean, if I start watching at 10, then I go to bed at 1 a.m. That's pretty normal.
You know, it'll probably be like 10 o'clock or maybe 11 when we finish recording this. Why don't you go watch Lawrence of Arabia? That's like a 4-hour movie.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Sure. No, I still got Spider-Man 2 to finish.
You know, I have a funny personal story about Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner, I always said that was my favorite movie. And I was super happy they made the sequel because now a lot of people were going to get into Blade Runner, which was super cool. And my friends, they were all like, Ghostbusters, that's my favorite movie. RoboCop, that's my favorite movie. And they got all of these shit movies. And then Blade Runner 2049 comes out. And it's like the greatest movie ever. I was so smug.
You only had to wait for like 30 years, but whatever.
Yeah, but they were salty, man. They were really mean about the Ghostbusters thing, and they're doing another one now, aren't they? A third one?
Are they?
Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Really?
Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, they're back.
Oh,
no way. What?
Wait.
Yeah.
Really?
What are you talking about?
Like
Boys.
an actual
Those guys must be
third?
like 90
No.
years old.
They're like 80, 70. No, I think they're going to be in the movie in some role. Bill Murray's probably just going to sit down and look tired and miserable. But I think this takes place in like a little farm town, and it's just a bunch of kids who become Ghostbusters or something. I think that sounds a lot like Ace Ventura 3. Did you guys see that one?
Oh my god.
No.
Probably, but I'm not sure.
It's Ace Ventura 3. It's like junior detective, and it's like this fat kid who learns that he is Ace Ventura's son.
Okay, I don't
And
think I
then,
saw
like,
that.
Then he meets his grandpa, and his hair starts changing, and he starts acting like the biggest spaz in his school, and the girl falls in love with him. There's one funny joke where he's solving a pet mystery because a goldfish died, and he puts like, you know how you do like an outline on the ground when somebody dies?
Yeah.
He puts like a plastic one in the fish tank, and that was super funny. And it's just floating there. But that movie can fuck off.
There's a great scene in the first Naked Gun movie where there's an outline, a chalk outline floating on the water because someone got killed at the docks.
Wait a minute. Are you saying Ace Ventura 3 stole that joke? I'm going to put my...
Or was it the other way around?
Dun, dun, dun. Blade Runner 2049.
But yeah, that movie is so fucking good. I don't know, Daniel, have you seen it?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It's great.
It's incredible. Everything about it, like the casting, the performances, how great everything looks, like the production design and all that. I don't see any flaws in that movie. Some people say it's too long, but having seen it a second time and having not felt the length at all, I like every scene has a purpose, and every scene in my mind goes on for as long as it needs to be. And it's like every side plot has its purpose and builds the characters in this way and that way. And it's so good.
I remember having a few issues with it, but I don't remember what they are right now because I saw it in theaters.
Rachel's CGI face is the biggest problem with that movie.
Yes, it is. That is is it a problem? I guess the CGI isn't that good, but
yeah, it's
whatever.
like. You could have just shot her from behind and that would have been fine. Or you could have given the animators a bit more time to perfect it. The movie's good enough.
Dude, it's not as bad as Rogue One.
People keep saying that. You know what? You know what? That Tarkin face, it looked fine.
What?
It looked like a fucking
Carrie Fisher
Pixar.
also look fine?
No, Carrie Fisher looks like garbage.
It looked like a fucking Pixar face.
You guys are both wrong.
Whatever.
I don't remember Tarkin. I remember Leia looking like shit.
Yeah, she looked like... I think...
oh, yeah, she did. She looked really bad. Really bad.
I think that uncanny valley effect, I think it affects us differently. I think, like, on some biological level, some people are more predisposed towards, these inaccuracies are what really stand out to me. Where some people are like, these inaccuracies. Because I never had a problem with Tarkin, but so many people did. And so many people loved Leia. I hated Leia.
I thought they both looked bad.
Yeah.
Well.
But yeah, like the CGI and the CGI Rachel not looking that great might be a budget issue. Because they have a lot of practical effects and practical sets, and I'm not sure how much animation budget there was. Or
they
even
say,
if that's how it works, honestly. But,
I don't know. The Rachel one didn't bother me, honestly.
Really?
I don't know why.
That bothered me the first time, too.
I don't know. Maybe it was just the theater I saw it in.
I think you can also forgive a bad effect when it's in a good movie.
Yes. Because, there are a lot of bad effects in great movies where I go, okay, this clearly wasn't the focus. And the point of that scene is that it's not convincing anyway. Like
look
that
at
line,
all those.
Her eyes were green. That is such a great line, and then the whole intention of what the villain was trying to do is just blown away.
When you said scenes that look bad, do you guys remember in Return of the Jedi when the Emperor was walking and he and Darth Vader were talking in the Death Star, and they're walking past all these Imperial guards, which are clearly just cut out posters?
Holy shit! No.
They're out of. Whenever you watch that scene again, you'll know. Like, as soon as somebody says this, it's so obvious.
Okay. Get this. This is a movie I doubt either of you have seen, but have you ever watched The Mighty Ducks?
No.
2? Not even the first one. The second one.
That's a fucking the hockey
Disney
movie, isn't it?
It's a Disney movie.
Is that the one? Is that the Mighty Ducks where Iceland is the villain?
I think I haven't seen it since I was a kid. The only reason I bring it up is because the kids were playing street hockey, and this one kid, he's like, "Ooh, I have my special puck shot," where he like flips the puck up and he slaps it while it's standing up, and like to make it seem like that much more epic. They had the shot of like the puck flying towards the goal, and then you have like all the kids behind the goal and they're like posing, but they're all cardboard cutouts. As a kid, I noticed they were cardboard cutouts. As a kid, on standard definition, I could tell.
That's rough. I remember watching those movies as a kid, but I fucking don't remember anything about them.
Me neither. That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blade Runner 2049, great movie.
Great movie.
The only
Fucking
other
awesome.
flaw like if someone had me at gunpoint and forced me to say what flaws this movie has, I think there's this angle where there's still, what is it, racism, speciesism against androids. And it kind of gets thrown in with a few lines, like when he walks through the police department and he goes, move out of the way, skin job or whatever. And then someone like writes "fuck you" on his door. But that's about it. Where like that whole angle plays out in maybe 2 scenes, and then it's pretty much
it's
forgotten
undercooked.
about. Yeah,
It's fairly like
they could have
underdeveloped.
maybe just 1 or 2 more lines, all like every 30 minutes, someone yelling at him because he's android or replicant. It would have been enough.
Have you seen all of the promotional videos
For what?
for Blade Runner?
Like the trailer?
Yeah, no, they did a lot of like 4-minute short movies which happen in the universe. Like there's one with Dave Bautista's character.
Oh,
where no, I recommend watching those because I saw all of those before the movie came out, and I did not have any problem with the racism. Probably because there's so much of that in those videos.
Oh,
So
okay.
also just good videos.
I do know, I didn't see it, I should, but I do know that there's a Blade Runner like short anime that was directed by Shinichiro Watanabe of Cowboy Bebop fame, and I heard that was
Boy
really
Bebop? What Boy
What?
Bebop? What Boy Bebop?
good. Cowboy
I know.
Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
I know.
But are you new to the world?
I'm doing a joke, you guys.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's
I didn't
trying
get
to
it.
do a funny, and it did not work.
It did totally worked. We all, remember that time I made the Cowboy Bebop joke and we all laughed?
Oh,
the way-
what a story, Mark.
While we're talking about promotional material for a movie, remember when in the trailer it showed that Harrison Ford was in the movie? And then
It
the
showed
actual
that-
movie has like a 10-minute scene where the main character walks through these empty halls and it builds atmosphere, and you know exactly that Harrison Ford is going to show up.
Yeah.
That's a Sony stipulation. Sony wanted to have Harrison Ford in the promotional material to market the movie, and
That's
it clearly,
understandable. That's understandable, but they did it in like the worst possible way.
Well, they
'Cause
ruined the
they
surprise.
ruins that scene.
Yeah, like that's why I don't consider that a flaw of the movie, because if we didn't know Harrison Ford was in there, that would have been a perfect reveal.
Yeah.
No, it would have been great. I don't know why they had to pick that scene. Like, couldn't they pick a different scene where he was in a different location?
Well,
He was drowning in the taxi. Or in the cab, I should say. In the car. Wow.
Harrison Ford shows up in the last third, so I guess there's not that much left anyway.
I guess, but
And you
I
know,
feel like they could have done it better.
the movie flopped anyway, box office wise. So they
Did
could
it?
have just. It underperformed. And. Which is good, because now they're never going to ruin it with a bad sequel. But, so they probably could have kept the Harrison Ford reveal secret and, like, not have him do any promotion. And then he would just have been in the movie and it'd be like, oh my god, it's Harrison Ford. But Sony likes to put things in their trailers.
Wouldn't it be awesome if they just recorded extra footage of him in like a different location just for the promotional material so that the scene could have been preserved?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you can still guess that he would be showing up there if you know he's in the movie.
I guess you're right.
But like that's an interesting question. I didn't even want to talk about Blade Runner that much, but like imagine if they didn't have him in the promotional material, and then like people start seeing the movie in the cinema, and then word of mouth spreads about, oh, did you see that reveal coming? Like, oh my god, that's so crazy. You know, like instead of knowing that Harrison Ford is in there, just people going, "Oh, that reveal was great." Maybe then the movie would have sold better or worse. I don't know.
That's
Maybe.
a good point.
But that's a weird movie. How do you even market that? Yeah, it's like 3 hours long. There's no action in
Fucking
it.
Blade Runner. That's a cult classic, and it's like one of the
Yeah,
best
like the first
directors
Blade
of our
Runner.
times.
There's no wish. Like, your girlfriend doesn't want to watch Blade Runner, and you don't want to be... Like, this isn't like Captain America, where you're like, hell yeah, wish fulfillment or something like that. This is like a very slow, sort of methodical... It's like a movie from the 70s. It's such a slow sci-fi movie.
Yeah, like the first one.
Yeah.
I get so annoyed whenever people complain that the first Blade Runner is slow. It's like it. Why is that a bad thing? What's wrong with slow movies? As long as it's good. Like,
Yeah.
both Blade Runners are good movies, and they're both slow. Who cares? I feel like if you can articulate in a way that makes sense, like why it being slow is detrimental to the film, that's one thing. But just that base criticism, like slow. No, fuck you.
It's because people don't have an attention span anymore. They're raised on video games and Michael Bay movies.
Like, I've gotten so sick of like loud, obnoxious movies nowadays, especially since Marvel movies are just like they're just overflowing with just like shit all the time. That like I can't really enjoy them. And when I see a movie like Blade Runner, which takes its time and actually, lets you absorb all the details and, lets you feel like you're part of the world, it's such a breath of fresh air by comparison.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that Marvel movies are inherently bad. This is just personal preference. Like I just find those movies annoying.
Marvel movies are usually the best when they slow down and they have those scenes like in Age of Ultron when they just sit around and try to lift Thor's hammer. Those are just the slow character scenes.
Or the scene where the Vision kills the last Ultron. They're just there in the woods talking. That's a really good scene.
But in Blade Runner, I mean, I get that some movies are slow and they have nothing happening and that's a pacing issue. But in Blade Runner, there's this whole world and all these wonderful sets and the colors and the details, and it's all there. You have the time to actually look at that and look at what a filmmaking marvel this fucking thing is, right? And then people say like they just want the next action scene to happen.
Pacing for me is the most annoying topic to discuss, and not because there's anything inherently wrong with discussing pacing, is that so many people are so inept when it comes to articulating what problems they have with pacing. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. I think we should move to the next subject, though, because we're almost 20 minutes in.
Yeah, you're right. We're just talking about fucking Blade Runner.
You know what's super cool, though? The director, he's doing Dune now. That's
I started reading Dune.
That's
in preparation for that movie.
That's such an awesome, like, yes, we're doing an old school Dune movie.
I should tell my dad. My dad fucking loves those books.
The first one's really good. I haven't read any of the later ones.
Okay, the way my dad describes it, he says that the first one is the best book, and it's just downhill from there. It just gets progressively worse.
Damn, okay.
Because he said that he literally felt like the writer just started to hate that he had to write these books. And he felt it.
What's his name? Herbert something.
I'm not
And
sure.
I got the book. Frank Herbert.
Frank Herbert. The
Lying
first
right
movie.
next to me.
The first movie is all about like spices, and the first book, I should say, is all about
Can
like
we not
spice.
spoil this shit? I'm reading it right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's move on.
Yes.
Tsurune.
Tsurune.
Geheso.
Yes. Also called Tsurune.
Tsurune.
Fucking non-weeb.
Oh.
Nothing
not a
to
weeb.
do with tsundere?
No.
Those
Are you
are
sure?
those.
Yes.
Asundere is an
tell you what
angry anime
Tsurune
girl,
is because...
right?
Sorry, what?
Daniel, isn't Asundere an angry anime girl?
You're half right.
I'm half right.
She's angry, but she actually wants you.
Oh.
See, there's two stereotypical tsunderes. So there's like the older tsundere.
Oh no, we're going to talk about Evangelion again, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Oh my god.
So before Evangelion, a tsundere was a girl that was, kind of a pain in the ass, but like once the relationship started, she would mellow out and she'd be nice. But Evangelion started the more modern interpretation of tsundere, where she just kind of flips back and forth between a pain in the ass and kind of nice. And that is basically what a tsundere is. And like basically the biggest difference between like writing a good one and a bad one is if the writer bothers to actually explain the behavior. Because like a lot of what happens is like people just saw like, oh, people like this type of behavior in girls, so we're just gonna like copy paste it in our anime, and it doesn't work because they don't bother to actually explain, well, why is her behavior so erratic?
Why did you want to talk about tsunderes, Bogan?
Okay, let me just talk about this anime for not long, but it's I mentioned the archery anime I'm watching a few times. That one concluded a few weeks ago, I think. So now I can actually talk about it because it's really good, and it's about archery. The word Tsurune is, they explain that in the first episode, is about, or that is the word for the sound that the bow makes when you fire the arrow.
Ooh.
And like
the
main
sound.
the main character's motivation why he got into that archery is because he like heard that wonderful sound that the arrow makes. So I guess it's the what is the connecting part of the bow?
The string.
Is it called the string? Yeah, I guess it's the sound that the string makes.
Yeah, it's just called a bowstring.
And he wants to replicate that. So that's why he got into archery. And it's not normal archery. I'm not sure if there is normal archery in Japan, actually. But it's called YuGiOh. And it's like very ritualistic. And they're wearing these old-timey garbs. And they have to go through these very rigid movements. And they have to stand in very specific spots and all that shit.
I'm watching. I just googled it. I'm seeing a lot of beautiful young boys.
Yes, it's a group of 5 boys in high school.
Was it animated
I think
by A1 Pictures? No, wait, not A1 Pictures. Kyoto Animation?
Those the guys that make Free?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep, it's produced by Kyoto Animation.
Oh my god. But it's good. It's really good. I mean, I heard Free is good too. I don't know.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But it's about... Okay, so...
How long is it?
Do they glisten with sweat?
No, it's not that.
Why do you have to be
Not
weird?
Fujo shit, okay? That's why I liked it. Like, there was this very weird
So you
shot.
like the glistening sweat?
No, it didn't have that. But there was this very weird shot on the first episode where the one character kind of just lifts his shirt for just a second.
Does
What
he know?
are you doing?
Does he know?
Yes.
What are you
but-
saying?
And I don't know why that is in there, because that never happens again. That is clearly not the focus of the show. I don't know. I think they were trying to like bait you into watching it more for the people who only watch it for that.
For those cave-dwelling Fujoshis?
Yes.
It's like, oh, we've deprived you. Let's make you a little thirsty.
But yeah, it's kind of. I mean, the anime is about. It's mostly about mental health, I'd say, and I mean it's a sports anime, so it's about why these people do that sport, right? That's kind of standard. But what I found, like what I thought was a flaw, and I'm not sure if it actually is it doesn't really explain how the sport works, and the sport itself doesn't look that difficult. Because, like, it's archery, okay, and they're shooting arrows at targets. And I'm not sure if that is only the high school rules or whatever, but they go to competitions, right? And basically what is scored there is how often you hit the target. Doesn't even matter where you hit it, apparently. You just keep score of how often you hit it. And I don't know, I've never done archery, but I feel like if you do it long enough, you shouldn't be missing the target. If you're like halfway skilled at archery and you got all the motions down, and the accuracy should be there, right? So,
I mean, I don't know anything about this sport, so
I mean, it's archery.
is it a really small target?
No, it's not.
Huh.
And that's the weird part where, I don't know, it didn't look that hard. And then in the last competition, it kind of got down to the last shot where everyone was hitting everything. And it really came down to, is this guy hitting the next shot or not? So, and that is where the mental health aspect actually kicks in, because the characters all get in their head and keep missing because like they're not 100% focused, and their personal life and their motivations like kind of distract them from what they're actually trying to do. And the main character starts out with what they call target panic, where he just tries to hit the target and he can't, because every time he knows people are watching him and he tries to shoot, but he just fails. And it's about the character overcoming that. And then there's another character who is just very dedicated to the sport, and he tries to like do techniques that are way too advanced for him, and then he keeps like fucking up simple shots and all that. And it's just about the characters kind of coming to grips with who they are and their who their teammates are, and them just letting go and actually focusing on the sport.
It actually seems like it's less about the sport itself and it's more about like the psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the sport itself isn't that interesting, honestly. But it has good cinematography and just cool characters, and yeah, it's great. And it's just 10, 12 episodes, so I can recommend that.
That's pretty short.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
guys, let's talk about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before we get started, this is going to be a long podcast. You probably saw it on when you click the video or whatever you're doing. You know this is a long podcast. We have so many topics we jammed into this one. Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh my god. Why doesn't this game...
I love your reaction.
Why doesn't this game do anything to try to get me up to speed with what's going on?
But it
What's
does.
a nobody? No, it doesn't. What's
Why
a
did
nobody?
you do anything to get up to speed with it?
Aesir.
Okay.
Did you access the memory archive right there on the title screen?
Fuck the memory archive. I'm just trying to play the game.
Okay.
But it literally gives it to you right there. The memory archive that explains all of the plots of all of the games.
Okay, fine. But it's still a stupid plot.
Take that L. Take the L.
Boken, are you editing this podcast? Can you edit this out?
No. Why would I fucking edit that out?
They even repackaged the game, all of the games, neatly in the story so far for like $50 or something, which is actually a pretty good deal for like Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, Chain of Memories, Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance. Am I forgetting any? And it has the cutscenes for all the other games.
Did you see Leffen, the Melee player, giving the game a 3 out of 10?
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was kind of ridiculous.
So he's full of shit, is what he's saying.
He even said that the graphics are bad. I think he's just being spiteful.
Man, that game is pretty beautiful.
Yeah, like even if you hate the game, like
I don't even hate the game. I just think it's kind of silly. I actually really liked it though.
Wait, do you like the game or not? I'm confused.
I like the game. I hate the Tetsuya Nomura-ness of like the cutscenes. Buzz Lightyear and like Buzz is talking to Woody. He's posed in like a super serious anime way where you like see his fist and he's like, "My heart will always belong to Andy, Woody." It's like, it's just like such
cringe. It's cringe.
Square needs better writers. But I interrupted you guys. You were saying? Did I interrupt you guys? I feel like I interrupted you.
I didn't play this game.
Oh.
You can't interrupt me.
I will say that there's a lot less of that in Entangled and in Frozen, because in those they kind of just follow the plot of the movie instead of Toy Story where they create their own weird something.
Why was Toy Story all about mechs? Like, that's ridiculous. I want to be a small little guy. Coming? Yeah, it is. People are.
That's it.
I thought that was awesome, though.
I see. When I saw Toy Story, I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna be a small toy, and I'm gonna be platforming in like a big place, and that's gonna be so cool." And
well, you are.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, but it's also like getting this mech. Like, man, I don't want to do that.
Okay, but you're also like running around in like air vents. And
yeah, I like that. I like that.
Dude, you're running around in a giant toy store and you literally feel like a tiny toy running around.
By the way, why were they such dumb... Like, they were super ugly toys. Why wasn't Donald Duck like a duck you take to the bath when you take a bath? Like a... What's it called? A bath duck?
A duck... A rubber ducky?
Yeah, a rubber ducky. Why wasn't he one of those?
I don't fucking know. I think the idea was that, like, they weren't toys so much as they were action figures.
Ooh. They just looked like bad voxel art.
Yeah, they kind of didn't look great. I agree with you. Not really sure why. Because, like, they didn't look like Figmas, you know? They didn't look like any action figure I've ever seen.
They could have even, because Square, they produce these super cool action figures of, like, Batman and Star Wars. Why didn't they do that? Get one of their crazy designers to do, like, an insanely badass little figure of all of these characters. And then you can sell those figures as well and make a lot of money. Synergy.
Yeah, I agree.
Business, you guys.
I agree, but I think they kind of made up for it in Monstropolis, because I thought their monster designs were pretty neat.
Monstropolis? Oh,
yeah.
Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, I stopped playing after Toy Story. I have no nostalgia for anything else.
You don't like Monsters, Inc.?
I don't have any nostalgia for it. I'm not playing... Look, the next level I saw was like, you can go to Tangled World. I don't care about Tangled. Watch.
And you're like, that's it. Fuck this game.
Yeah, like maybe I would also be more interested in Kingdom Hearts if I had seen any of these fucking movies.
I want to see Kingdom Hearts where he goes to like, oh, you're just gonna go into Star Wars: A New Hope. Is there a New Hope level?
No.
No, I don't think so.
There's Pirates of the Caribbean, though.
I don't think so.
You guys don't want to see Donald Duck give Darth Vader the business?
I really don't.
Goofy could be hanging out with Han Solo?
You know, it's funny because, like, I feel like this series' obsession with, like, the darkness is, like, it goes hand in hand with the dark side.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, yes. And then the Millennium Falcon could be the gummy ship.
That would be awesome.
That would be pretty cool. And
Luke
would turn on his green lightsaber and it's like a Keyblade.
Yeah. Yes. If you could get like a Keyblade from that world, it probably would look like a lightsaber with like an X-wing attached to it.
Oh my god. Yes, it would. And there's like a Death Star like keychain on the end of it.
Yeah. Pay us, Square.
We're doing your work for you guys.
I can imagine though that like the legalese that they had to like hoop through for this game alone was probably a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do more Kingdom Hearts. Didn't Disney say with Star Wars or something? No, they said it with LucasArts that they didn't want to develop their properties, not doing it in-house or something. But then they did their deal with EA and Sony's doing their Spider-Man. Sony did the Spider-Man game. Like, where are they with this?
I don't know.
You know what's gonna happen? Disney's just gonna buy up like Square or Nintendo or something, or maybe Sony.
I don't think Nintendo, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did buy up like a game developer and just had them like make all their games.
I would super like it if Disney bought Sony. I really like Sony. I think they're my favorite sort of platform holder, but I would really like Disney to buy them because I don't trust Sony, the non-PlayStation company, to stay afloat. PlayStation is the only division of that company that makes any money. They're hemorrhaging, like they're losing hundreds of millions every other year on these stupid, cameras that they keep producing and stuff like that. Just go under the Disney banner, guys.
So I gotta ask though, are you gonna finish Kingdom Hearts or you're just done with it?
I'm probably gonna get back to it when I finish when I finish Resident Evil 2. When I'm done with Resident Evil 2. When I'm ready to put that game down.
Okay. Because I'm interested to hear in the rest of your thoughts on the game.
I wanna see the cutscene. I wanna see the cutscene where it's Aqua who goes, "I'm sorry, Mickey, but it's too late."
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, actually, and I'm more than halfway through the game.
Oh come, man! Oh my god, so much to play.
Yeah, I'm about to go to either like Pirates or the Big Hero 6 world.
You know what's weird? They didn't have Danny DeVito voice his character in Hercules.
There's a reason.
Why?
The voice actor for the Japanese Phil passed away, so they wanted to like respect that, and they decided to just not replace him.
Oh, I see. I think that's... God damn it. I can't say anything because the guy died.
Yeah. They just decided, you know what, he passed away, we're not going to try and replace him.
I see. They couldn't do an American-European exclusive scene where Danny DeVito's like, "All right, guys, I'm going to teach you to be a hero."
Well, you can play Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 and Birth by Sleep.
But where would I ever get all of those games? You think I'm going to buy all of them individually? That's insane, Daniel. If only there was some package.
Luckily, there is. The story so far on your PlayStation 4. Not Xbox, though.
Suck it, guys.
I don't even know why it's not on Xbox.
I think it's likely that Sony was like, "Hey, Square, we'll finance some of this," like with Metal Gear Solid 4. No one's ever going to see that outside of Sony.
I just picture like the Sony execs and they're like rubbing their hands and they're like, "Come on,
come on, Square. You know you're gonna make most of your money on us." Probably it was involved. That was probably one of those things when they did the Final Fantasy VII contracts.
Probably. Well, before we move on to Punisher, I just want to say real quick, Kingdom Hearts 3 is really fun, a little too easy. I hope they patch in a critical mode because that's really my biggest issue. I just wish the game was more difficult. But aside from that, and of course the cringy dialogue, which I think is part of the entertainment in a way, because I'm just like, on one hand I'm groaning, but I'm also laughing. So I like the game.
I have two things to say before we move on. I really liked that there was like an old school cartoon with Mickey and Sora fighting like a giant or something.
Oh yeah, that was cute.
I thought that was super charming. It's like, oh yes, those old cartoons. And also, does Sora have cat ears? Or is that just his hair?
Cat ears? No.
Google an image of him and tell me he doesn't have cat ears.
He has regular ears.
You can have both.
Like, they're... Okay, so the original draft version of Sora had him looking kind of like a half lion thing.
What?
And he had a chainsaw.
What? That's insane.
Nomura literally went to Disney execs with that fucking sketch of Sora with a chainsaw.
Original sketch. What year was that?
Early 2000, probably.
So that's like when Michael Eisner was there, and he was like,
Yeah, Eisner probably saw them and was just like,
man, those Japanese bastards. I'm looking at it. He looks like he has chimpanzee ears here. But he has like a lion tail and hands.
Yeah.
I hate... I would have loved to see this, actually. I hate it.
You hate it, but you love it.
Yeah, I hate it, but I love it. Anyway,
right, so...
you guys want to talk about Punisher Season 2? Yes. I didn't watch it. You can't spoil anything. Go on.
Broken.
Yes.
How did you feel about Punisher Season 2?
Still good overall. Had some issues.
Yes.
I still think like Marvel, the Marvel Netflix series still are entertaining to me. And I haven't seen a bad one yet, except Luke Cage Season 1.
Better or worse than Season 1?
Better. Yeah,
I agree.
I think better. I know you agree, but for me, it's actually a question.
Yeah. So I remember you were asking like the thing with Pilgrim. You're like, oh, he doesn't really seem to have anything to do with the plot, and I thought that was kind of weird.
Can we just say yes? Spoilers. By the way,
you can spoil anything. I don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like we should say that
it
generally when we start talking about these topics, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So spoilers. Skip like 15 minutes ahead. So I remember you were saying that like Pilgrim felt like kind of disconnected from the main plot. So I thought that was kind of a weird statement though, because the way that I interpreted it was that there were basically two plots going on at the same time. There was the plot with Billy Russo, and then there was the plot with the Russians.
Yes, that's true, but usually those have equal weighting and equal time, and here it felt like Billy Russo was 75% or more.
See, it kind of felt like it went back and forth. Like there would be an episode where it was predominantly Billy Russo, and then you'd get a couple of updates here and there about what Pilgrim was doing.
Yeah, but
then it'd be the opposite.
The problem is that, I'm not sure if it's a problem, but we can talk about that in a moment. Pilgrim and Frank met once before the finale. Pilgrim was usually isolated to what actually happened between Frank and Curtis and Billy and Amy. He was mostly like following them, and then when he had his scenes, that was more about his family and his character, and it didn't really like they didn't characterize him through his interactions with the main characters. And that's why he felt just disconnected.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird how it was handled, but I was more forgiving of it compared to like in Season 1, for example, because I think Season 1 did something similar with that one character that he kind of represented like, oh, what if he kind of represented like Frank's military values, like taken to like a weird extreme.
Yeah. I know who you mean, and I defended that character before.
Yeah,
so
I think that
guess
character
that's
sucks.
true, yeah.
I don't like that character at all. And I think Pilgrim's way better.
The reason why I don't think it's necessarily a flaw is because I feel like one of the main themes of this whole season was just people getting dragged into stuff they didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
And that's definitely Pilgrim. So, like, the fact that he just trails them and never really, like, starts being extremely active, it makes sense considering that his his motivation isn't really his own motivation.
Right. He is. It came across more to me like he was doing it for his family.
Yeah.
He didn't actively want to do it. Now, I felt that the stuff with Billy was a little more hit and miss with me. Like, oh my god, they made such a big deal about like how scarred his face was, and like how like it wasn't even a big deal.
No.
Like, especially the way, like, if you saw what happened to him at the end of season 1, you would expect his face to be completely fucked.
Yeah.
And he looks fine.
He looks fine, and like the scars he has are maybe 5 or 6 big ones, like dragged across his head. But that's not what happened. He was pushed into a million fucking pieces of glass. Like it shattered as Frank was like slamming his head against that I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it was a mirror or something.
Way different.
Like, yeah, he like grabbed his face, started smashing it in the mirror, and then he pushed his face against the mirror and started dragging it down.
Yeah,
like he fucked up his face. And it looked like in season 2, like they just got a marker and just went on his face, and that's it.
Yeah, let's do one over here and then one here, and then that is still like a spot. Okay, let's do one long one here. Yeah.
What's worse is that other characters in the show make a big deal about like, oh, you used to be such a pretty boy.
Yeah.
He still looks the same.
When the psychiatry lady like sees his face for the first time because he takes off the mask, and the camera doesn't show it, like the viewer doesn't see it, and she just goes. And then in the start of the next episode, they reveal his face, and that's just Billy. What is the big deal?
Oh, and so I knew they were gonna bang like moment 1. Right when I saw that she was his therapist, I'm like, they're gonna bang.
Yeah, I guess.
And their relationship was actually pretty interesting. I liked it. I thought it was one of the better parts of the show because like, I actually really liked how they presented Billy for the most part, like his mental breakdown and like how his memories are fragmented. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It's the character was very complex. My problem with it was that I don't think whoever the actor is that plays him can portray such a complex character. Like he was going through 5 different emotions in the span of like 15 seconds. And it felt extremely forced to me. He's not a bad actor, but that needs like a world-class guy to actually pull that off, because the character is so fucked up and so erratic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think I was as bothered as you are, but I do see what you're saying, that like that needed a little more finesse that the actor did not have.
Yeah. It needed like Billy needs some kind of unifying acting trait, you know? Like Frank, for example, is the guy who plays Frank is great because he has these little details that he always does, like his little head shakes, and then when his voice gives out because he's trying to not be emotional in that moment. Those are like, I feel a character there. For Billy, it felt like the script was there, and then like, okay, you need to do this emotion now, and now this emotion in the next sentence.
What wasn't good, though, was that fucking plot. Was it a plot twist? I don't know. That fucking nonsense with getting Frank to think that he killed some women.
Oh, God, that's the worst part.
That was the worst part of season 2 by far. I literally had to pause it as I was watching it because my brain couldn't process what I was watching. I was just like, was it? I was literally thinking to myself, like, is this what they're going with? Like, is this actually what they're trying to do?
Yeah, I guess we should explain what happens there.
Yeah, do you want to do it?
Can I? It's very, very weird. Like, it's basically a scene where Frank goes into, I don't know what it is, like this dank fucking facility or whatever. And he just starts shooting at some bad guys. And Billy laid a trap for him where he shoots at moving shadows behind a glass window because he thinks those are more thugs. And then he goes up there and sees that those were just 3 innocent women that were with the thugs. And then he thinks like, I'm the monster now. You went wild and then I killed these innocents. But the way it is executed, it makes no sense because like he shoots upwards at the window, but the women are lying in the room. One is like was thrown over a desk. The others lie in like perfect distance from each other, like symmetrically next to her, and they have gun wounds all over, even though when he shoots upwards at the window they should get hit in the head and nowhere else. And it's immediately clear that Frank didn't kill them, but the show continues with, oh no, what did I do?
It's also like, why would you go through this plan and like, because Frank, the whole idea is just to make Frank go like, oh, I'm the monster. But like, Billy Russo set up this plan, and for one, how would he really be able to contrive the events in a way that would line up that perfectly? Like, that's ridiculous, first of all. And second of all, did he do this plan knowing that his own men were going to get killed in the process? Who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Especially since the way that he treated his guys, he treated them like they were his bros, like his brothers, like they were part of a brotherhood. That they tried to really sell like he was creating like real bonds with these guys, and for him to just throw their lives away just for the sake of hurting Frank's feelings, like, seems really outlandish.
I mean, I guess they knew that Frank was coming anyway and that a gunfight would ensue, but then you still need to have all these variables like fall perfectly into place where, you know, Billy survives up to this point and the women don't run away, and then they know that when a shadow moves past the window, Frank is going to shoot at it.
Well, the women don't run away because they were shot beforehand.
Yeah, well, I guess. I guess they were shot before that whole fight actually happened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was the whole thing, right? Like, and that's another thing that makes the plan make no sense, because it's not that difficult to find out, like, you know, what actually happened. So the whole plan makes no sense.
Well, I mean, is it not that difficult? I mean, the point is that Frank walks in there. Oh, and then the police comes and immediately takes him away. For some reason, Billy was able to contact the police because he knew Frank was going to be found up there. But at the same time, he made it out of the building as the police was already in the building. And he got away. And, like, he didn't give Frank any time to actually look at how the women were shot. I guess that was the point of Frank just still believes it because he didn't have time to actually check. But for the police to show up at exactly that moment is a massive coincidence.
Yes. Like, that didn't even register me just because, like, the whole scene was so dumb. I was just like...
And by the way, that scene happened just after that scene with the flashing light, which was probably the worst action scene in the whole season.
I get what they were trying to do with that scene. I think, like, it could have been more interesting with better direction, but yeah, the way it was done wasn't very good.
Yeah, so it's basically a scene where they keep, like, flashing light in a complete dark room at Frank so he can't see, and then the guys, like the villains, just come up to him and punch him and
slash him.
Yeah, and he can't defend himself because he's blinded. But the bad guys aren't wearing any goggles or infrared lights, so why can they see him perfectly?
Why
can't?
Yeah, why can't Frank see them, but they can see
like
Frank?
He doesn't even defend himself. He doesn't even shoot at them, even though he knows they're all around him. And
Yeah,
he
that
should
was
at
bad.
least see generally where they are. It makes no sense.
Yeah, that was bad. But still, I think season 2, it had a lot of interesting stuff in it. I think it was more ambitious than season 1. It also had more things going on. Like, I felt like there were very long stretches of season 1 where just nothing happened. And I felt like season 2, like, even though it did have dumb stuff like that, it was at least paced better, and it felt like more things were happening as the show was going on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of making fun of the dumb stuff, but overall it had a lot of great elements. Like, I'm making fun of those action scenes, but the other action scenes are fantastic.
Dude,
rarely
the action,
are
the action scene in the
punches-
gym,
Yeah,
the gym one is so good.
like that is one of the most just gruesome and visceral action I've seen in a while.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
There's also the shootout in the police department. That was really good.
Yeah. And that is probably what I appreciate about Punisher the most, just how raw it is in a lot of aspects. Like I realized that very early on in the first episode where he goes to help Amy, and then they have a fight scene in the bathroom, right, of this club. And
Oh yeah, that was a great fight.
that is a great fight, and he's fighting women, which is not usual because, I mean, I watch a lot of action movies, and usually when you have women fighters, they tend to go up in those, like, climactic one-on-one fights against another woman. There's rarely a man-on-woman fight, or it's like a woman on multiple henchmen who don't matter, but in a one-on-one fight, like, women rarely fight men in a lot of action movies. And here, fucking Frank fights 2 women at the same time and just elbows them in the face and throws them in, like, bathroom stalls and all that shit. Like, Punisher
it
doesn't
was
give
brutal.
a fuck.
It was pretty brutal. But, like, at the same time, like, these women are literally trying to kill him.
Yeah.
They're trained assassins, and they are trying to fuck him up.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying, yeehaw, equality, you know?
Which reminds me, that girl Rachel was great.
Yeah.
Like, at first, I thought her character was going to be annoying, and she kind of is, but in a way that, like, the interactions with Frank are really great. Like, I love the moment where, like, Frank is in the hotel room with her, and he has her tied up, and she's like, I'm going to scream, and he just duct tapes her mouth.
Yeah. There was another one of those scenes where I just thought, how fucked up and raw is this? He's just going to tie this girl to a bed and then duct tape her mouth shut so that he can get some sleep.
Yeah.
That's so fucked up.
It's fucked up, but, like...
But he was right, because for, like, the first half or, like, first 4 episodes, she was still trying to run.
Yeah, like, even though Frank was trying to help her...
Yeah.
She just didn't appreciate it, and she was just trying to get away from him.
Women, am I right? I'm still here, by the way.
I mean, it's understandable, and that's why I think their friendship was just so real too, because they really took their time to develop these complete strangers who don't trust each other, and then find reasons for why they need to stay with each other.
And by the end of it, they create, like, such a wholesome bond where, like, it really feels like almost father and daughter. Although I think that I also said something, like, interesting about how Frank may have been, like, unhealthily projecting his daughter onto her.
Well, why unhealthily though?
Maybe not unhealthily per se. I would just imagine that, like, projecting your dead daughter onto someone is probably not the healthiest thing to do in general, is what I meant.
Yeah.
Not that he specifically did anything with her that was unhealthy.
You know,
just that
what the fuck else
itself.
does he have in his life? Might as well find someone he truly cares about and just...
He did! And she never came back.
Wait,
At the start of season 2, he got with that girl Beth real quick.
Oh yeah.
And we never see her again.
Well, yeah, because she's a normie and he can't live with normies because he's a fucking violent psychopath.
Sure. I mean, I get it, but I kind of wish they, I don't know, they did something again with her. But yeah, whatever. Overall, I think season 2 is pretty good. I'd say it's mid tier Marvel. If like Daredevil's season 1 and 3 are like the best, and I guess Luke Cage season 1, I haven't seen it, is like the worst, then I'd say season 2 Punisher's like in the middle.
I sincerely want to know what you think of Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
Do you really want me to watch them?
I really do. I don't have anyone else to talk about it.
I saw the first half of Luke Cage and I hated it.
Well, the first season of Luke Cage is kind of shitty.
First half of the first season.
The second half is worse, so...
Oh.
But I really liked the second season, and I think people are just not valuing it enough.
I was extremely mixed on Jessica Jones season 1. Because I went into it expecting to like it more because like people told me it was one of the better Marvel shows, and I came out kind of like there was some parts of it I loved. Like every time David Tennant was on screen, the show was a 10 out of 10. Like his character was great and his portrayal of the character was great.
Who is David Tennant? Get it? Get it? Because he is Doctor Who.
Silence is staying in.
That was a bad Doctor Who joke.
I'm gonna go. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, you didn't play it. So what do you think of RE2 Make?
It's my favorite game this generation since Bloodborne, I think.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Did Breath of the Wild come out after Bloodborne?
Yes.
Okay. I think Bloodborne is the best game of this generation so far. I probably like RE2 about as much as I like Breath of the Wild. Maybe I like it a bit more. I don't think it's necessarily better, but I think it's more up my alley. What did you think of it?
I think it's good, but I think no one should give any attention to what opinions I hold on horror, because I can't watch horror, I can't play horror, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I hate being scared, and as I understand it, that is a crucial part of playing a horror game.
Yeah. How far are you into the game?
I think I'm at the third part of Leon A.
Have you left the police station?
Yeah, I'm at the laboratory now.
Okay.
I beat the sewers.
Oh yeah, you saw the alligator?
That's the beginning of the sewers, yeah.
You know what? I thought it was so cool that it was there because I watched an interview where they were talking like, yeah, well, it's a new style we're presenting it in, and a lot of stuff may not carry over. We don't think the alligator's gonna make it. Like, that's something that's pretty cartoony. And that was like...
What?
Well, you're here.
What?
Well, you're here.
What's that about? What? Alligator? What?
See, Daniel's just jumping into this conversation. He doesn't know anything.
I don't.
No, anyway, it was there, and it was super cool. We're talking about RE2. Daniel, what did you think of RE2?
I played like 10 minutes.
Oh, awesome.
And I really liked what I played of it. But I decided to play Kingdom Hearts instead. Much to everyone's dismay, I know. Don't worry, I will definitely go whole hog and beat like Claire A, Leon B, Leon A, Claire B when I do start playing it. I want to do everything. So, but for now, I liked what I played of it. Very cool.
Yeah. The irony is you played it for 10 minutes I can play it for 10-minute bursts and then I have to stop and calm myself down.
See, I always thought that like I had low tolerance when it comes to like being scared. And I don't know if I just built a tolerance over time because like RE2, it doesn't scare me that much.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm over-exaggerating. Like, the beginning was rough, but as I went into the sewers, I felt like it wasn't scary at all anymore. And I'm still playing the game on like 10% volume. But I don't know, something about the mansion in 1 and just the police station where most of the lights don't work anymore, and those sound effects, and you don't like you can rarely look up. You're not really sure if there's going to be these fucking what are they called, the ones that come from the ceiling?
Lickers.
The lickers, yeah. One of those is around. Of anytime I walk through a hallway in like the police station, I just expect something to pop out of the window or just run by or whatever. And that's really not the case anymore once you leave the station.
I really, we talked a bit about this on the chat, but I hate it when RE games leave these sort of opening areas because it always gets so super linear and boring. The games, I think they're absolutely at their best when they're in these weird, like super intricate, weirdly connected levels you have to progressively
like the Spencer
open.
Mansion.
Like the mansion, like the police station.
Yeah.
I've never played RE3, so I don't know if there's an area like that there.
The sewers were that linear?
Maybe not that linear.
They were definitely smaller.
Yeah.
Dude, the Spencer Mansion in RE1 is like one of the most immaculate examples of level design that I've seen. It's so good. It's just so well made.
Have you seen the Resident Evil randomizer?
No.
Okay. Basically, all the rooms are randomized, so you walk into one room and you get out just like you'll go into the first room to the left of the Spencer Mansion and like there's the shark. And also enemies are randomized, so like there'll be dogs that are chasing you, but it's actually sharks. Something like that.
What the fuck?
And items are also randomized, so you'll pick up like an herb, but oh wait, it's just ammo for a gun you don't have. It's super weird.
I would hate that. That sounds awful.
It does sound awful. But I think that's a super interesting experiment.
I have to say, though, I really liked RE7. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
I liked it before it got to the ship. It's the same issue I have with all of them.
I think the ship had some cool ideas here and there, but overall it wasn't as interesting. But the reason I bring it up is because the stuff that happens on the Baker estate is like, I feel that to me felt like it was hearkening back to the Spencer Mansion, but even then it wasn't quite as like tightly designed, right?
Right.
It was good, don't get me wrong, and I enjoyed it, but like I don't think it was as well thought out. Cuz like you would have like certain locked doors in certain areas of the Baker estate, and then once you find a way to actually unlock that door, by that point its usefulness is kind of negligible, and that wasn't really the case in the Spencer Mansion, where like if you did find like a little shortcut or something, it was like pretty useful. But yeah, I don't know why though that these games that like they first start out like really tightly connected, really great design, and then like in the final third of the game it's just like corridors.
I think more people have to complain about that for them to fix this, because I'm super interested in seeing what the hell could they do with Resident Evil 8, because I think they're on such a good roll with this franchise right now.
I think it's understandable with RE2 since it's a remake, but RE7 was a new game and they still did the same shit. So
yeah, well, RE7, they were coming out of a gigantic creative slump with RE at that point. So I forgive that game. I forgive RE2 for being a remake. I'm not gonna be happy if they do this again, though.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if I'm sure it'll be a good game because they are on a roll. But like, I would be less forgiving of that type of shit if we see it again in RE8.
Yeah.
But now I think the real question is it going to be first person like RE7, or is it going to be over the shoulder with RE2? Like, what the fuck are they going to do?
Or is the next game going to be RE3 Remake?
Ooh.
Yeah, they have been like teasing that. They did say like, oh, if enough fans want it, we might do it.
But I
They'll
mean,
do it.
if they say that, there should be another Resident Evil game in the makes, right? Like, that means they haven't even started pre-production yet. And surely they have one cooking already.
Yeah, they are. I'm sure they. How many teams do they have on RE? Because
knows?
you know what, they it's not. I think they must have 2 teams. I don't think it's the same team that made 7 and 2. I think that's unlikely. Maybe there's some carryover, but I feel like
I don't know.
Because otherwise RE2.
I'm pretty sure those were made parallel.
Yeah, because RE2 they announced like, oh, we will make the game, we do it, right? They did that before they announced RE7, didn't they?
I don't remember.
I feel
It was
like
a
they
while
did.
ago.
I feel like maybe I'm confusing this, but like RE2 Make started out as a fan game,
What?
and then they did it not? I feel
There
like
was
they
a
hired.
there was a fan. Okay, there was a fan game, but that doesn't necessarily mean it had anything to do with the development of RE2.
They didn't they get in contact with those people or
Yes.
something?
Yes, that's true, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean it had anything. Like, I think what you're trying to say that it was the impetus for the remake, and I don't think that's necessarily the case.
But they got in contact, so what did they talk about?
Probably just gave him a
May-
cease and desist letter.
It could have been that they asked them to come on board, but
Yeah.
you never know. Like, they could have done like what Sega did with Sonic Mania.
Oh yeah, maybe I'm thinking of Sonic. Ah, whatever.
Super interested to see where this series goes, though. What do
Hey,
you guys
Richard?
want to? What do you guys want to see from it? I want to see more weird swamp people.
I want to see what the original version of RE4 was supposed to be with Dante or Tony Redgrave. Like, I don't even want it to be like with the RE engine. I want to see the original version.
Get Shinji Mikami back? No.
Get Hideki Kamiya.
Yeah, Hideki Kamiya.
I want to see what that original version was supposed to be.
Or do you want like? See what? I might also be super interested in seeing like, let's do a crazy gothic castle which has like an underground system or something. That would be super cool too.
What's really interesting is that if in Devil May Cry, which was basically made after Shinji Mikami said, "Hey, this is nothing like our Resident Evil. Make it its own thing," and they started like rebuilding the game.
Don't ruin my franchise with your weirdness, Kamiya.
But here's the thing: there's actually like multiple elements of that were left over from when it was Resident Evil 4 still left over in Devil May Cry.
Yeah, like the keys and the weird level progression.
As well as Nightmare Beta, the boss.
He's what? Wait, what? The guy
he's
who
a relic.
The weird Lovecraftian spindly sphere monster.
That is a relic from when the game was originally RE4. Apparently, the model was left untouched. Now, I'm sure the fight itself turned out differently given Dante's new moveset, since I remember seeing like a screenshot of the original like RE4 build of the game, and Dante looked like a Resident Evil protagonist. Like it looked like he still had tank controls. So I can't imagine the fight was the same, but the character model is the same.
That's super interesting.
Oh, I love that stuff. I love seeing like what could have been, you know?
Yeah. Have you guys heard about Silent Hills? It was a game they were gonna make once.
Don't do that to me. That's the kind of what could have been that makes me want to cry.
I think that game was just like a stunt for Kojima to get his name out there one last time. I don't think for a second that game was ever seriously considered being made.
Don't do that to me.
I'm serious though, because surely Kojima knew that this Konami thing, I'm on my way out soon. And then he set himself up as this giant hero when he left, and it was like a year later he returns with a beard, and he's like, I'm working with Sony now. And people were super happy.
Oh, God.
Because, I just say that because Death Stranding, so much of that game was ready so quickly. Surely he had been working on it like behind the scenes to some capacity.
I mean, it's certainly in the realm of possibility.
Or maybe he just had a lot of ideas. Like it was a game he wanted to do for a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, dude,
it's not RE2.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, he's been making Metal Gear for like how many decades at this point? Like, I'm sure he's had plenty of ideas for other stuff that has been shelved because he couldn't do it. So, yeah.
I think that's such a, like, why the hell did he continue to make Metal Gear games when he wasn't, like, he for the last 10 years, he kept making them, and he kept saying, like, oh, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. You can do something else. You're a VP at Konami. I think he was too in love with the franchise. He didn't want anyone else getting their hands on it.
I don't know about that. Like, I look at Metal Gear Solid 4 especially, and that game just felt self-destructive.
Yeah, well, the original director got, like, death threats because people wanted Kojima back, and he was like, fine, but I'm gonna make it suck, and you're all gonna hate it.
Except when it came out, everyone loved it, and it wasn't until like 10 years later when people started going, hey, maybe Metal Gear Solid 4 wasn't that good.
Really?
Remember
I needed like 2 hours to understand that.
To understand?
Wait, to understand what?
That is fucking garbage.
Yeah? I've never finished that game. It's the only Metal Gear, mainstream Metal Gear I haven't finished because, like...
I beat it, bitch.
You know what? I think I have maybe like an hour or 2 left. I'm somewhere in Shadow Moses. But last time I touched that game, and I'm like, no, I'm done. Like this, get out of here. I don't care.
You know, I actually, even though that section is kind of shitty, I actually kind of like that section just because it feels like that moment more than anything is like representative of Kojima at that moment of just like, here, I guess I'm giving you what you want. This is what you like, right? And it's just shit. It's just like... Right?
Metal Gear Solid 4 is such a good example of maybe let the things you love die.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, though. I feel like we're very bad at keeping on track.
If only we had a host.
Yeah, where is that guy?
A duty of keeping us on track.
Yeah. I'm doing it right now. What are you talking about?
Oh my goodness.
Should we just move on? Go into
Throw
break?
in that shade.
I don't have anything more to say about Resident Evil.
I want to ask you, the Tyrant, Mr. X, what do you think?
He's fucked up, man. when that dude shows up, like that's when the game switched from where I was actually spooked to where I was fucking stressed out. Like the moment, the moment he shows up.
Wait, let me stress you out even more. I saw a Boundary Break recently, and it's basically a show where this guy takes like a magic camera and he just like shows you all like the stuff that you're not supposed to see. Mr. X actually walks around actively throughout the map.
Yeah,
what?
I know that.
They don't just spawn him in.
They do. There are scripted sequences where they spawn him in, but when that's not the case, he is actively walking around, opening doors, like just doing his thing.
Oh.
Does he?
How much of-
I think he sometimes teleports too. But it's kind of obvious when, like, I was followed by him and then I ran to, like, a room there and then a room there and then I went back and he was, I don't know, like, he made it maybe two rooms from where he was when I started, you know? Like, it was clear he was actually going on a path to get to where I was. So it was kind of clear to me that he actually is a part of the map now.
I think it's going to be super interesting to see what speedrunners do with this game. Because so much of it is just this randomized series of spawning, which you have to get through. And it's really hard in certain areas to get past them. I don't know, I feel like...
Yeah, if he actually doesn't teleport, he should be pretty manipulatable.
Yeah, but there are areas where you need to walk around him, and I just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's going to be a lot easier than I think.
Here's how Mr. X works, though. There's actually two Mr. X's.
Oh.
There's the field one that just walks around the environment, and then there's the scene one that triggers at certain points.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and if you're like particularly savvy, you can actually make it so that both of them appear at the same time.
What?
Yeah, you can like trick the game into making both of them and like putting both of them in the same room.
Why would you want that? You got me.
Dude, the first time he appeared and I ran past him and I was like, okay, I'm back at the safe room. Now where to go next? And then he just walks into the safe room and I'm like, fucking shit. Are you kidding me? I still need to save and check my item box and now I have to like run circles around this fucking room so then he doesn't catch me. That's fucked up.
What a great game.
Yeah.
It is. It is. It really is. This podcast hasn't been nearly as long as I thought it was going to be. I thought we'd be 2 hours in at this point. Anyway. That's because I'm such a good host, you guys.
Well, hey.
Woohoo. Chinese food. I had Chinese food recently. Do you guys want to hear me talk about it?
What?
No.
What the no.
Actually talk about YuGiOh. Come on.
Do you want me to talk about YuGiOh, Daniel?
Yes.
Daniel, do you want me to talk about YuGiOh? We'll talk
Yes.
about YuGiOh. So,
go ahead.
this is the second ban list we've gotten since the channel started, since the podcast started. This is a really good one. A lot of the degenerate strategies and FTKs, like, they're dead. There was a YCS recently in Chicago. YCS is just a YuGiOh championship. Guess which deck won?
The one with all the smug anime girls?
No. Well... well, they're not smug. They're like cat anime girls. It was Lunalights. A deck which hasn't... Like, that deck was meta relevant for 1 week, 3 years ago when it first came out or something. And then people realized, oh, this is just crap. Leave it. It won a championship right now. Like, what the hell is this format we're in? We're just, oh yeah, that can win for some reason.
Because people were unprepared for it.
Because people were unprepared for it. Also because a lot of what people thought the meta was going to be around, like Altergeist and Skystrikers and Thunder Dragons, a lot of that stuff people are very prepared for. And those decks aren't really prepared for the more rogue strategies people are employing these days. I think Dark Warriors are on the decline, and I think the...
You do
think more
realize
people-
that none of these words mean anything to me, right?
I think the Dark Warrior decks are on the decline. I'm just gonna pick up where I left, and I think a lot of what is the next format is gonna be. It's like super weird strategies. I think they're gonna be a lot more popular. Or
I feel like I should bring up some Kingdom Hearts terms just to make things extra confusing.
okay, bring him.
Nobody.
Oh,
Somebody.
a somebody.
Organization 13.
What's an organization?
The real Organization 13.
Oh my god.
Section
What's Ansem?
31.
Who is the one character who is Ansem? Why is everybody named that?
There is 2 Ansems.
Who is Xehanort? And why are there 2 of him? Why are there 3 of him?
Okay, so Xehanort is like the actual big bad.
Hold on. Isn't he called Xenahort?
No, Xehanort.
What?
So he's the actual
You're
big
fucking
bad.
lying.
I swear. Yes. So his name is Xehanort.
I think his name is actually Xehanort, now that Bogan says that.
No, it's Xehanort.
I don't think you're right, Daniel. I think you're wrong.
Oh wait, it
Okay,
is
whatever.
Oh god.
No.
It is
Xehanort.
Xehanort.
No. So Ansem is actually Xehanort's Heartless, and Xemnas
Oh my god, stop.
is Xehanort's Nobody.
Stop!
And when Xehanort, Heartless, and Nobody were defeated, they became his Somebody.
Oh my god. No, they didn't.
Oh, I love this
I'm
lore.
glad that you're
It's so
amused at
bad.
least.
Like the funny thing
so
about
bad.
the funny thing about Kingdom Hearts to me is you don't need any lore. It could just be, oh, I'm a kid and I'm gonna go to sleep and go on these Disney adventures in my dreams. You don't need anything more than that. You don't need this crazy lore that spans 70 different titles.
You know what Nomura's response to that is?
What?
He literally said that the reason why everything is so complicated is so that the story could be unpredictable.
Yeah, but I don't give a shit about the story. I want to skip these cutscenes.
Continue with Yu-Gi-Oh!
Probably the next meta is going to be just the big 3 we have going right now. Maybe Salamangreats are going to make an impact. That's a new deck.
Wait, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece?
No, no, Thunder Dragons, Sky Strikers, and Altergeists. They call them the big 3. And Salamangreats, maybe Orchists, Crusadia, OTK, Guard Dragons probably. I think Guard Dragons are gonna make Blue Eyes a lot more meta competitive, maybe like a weird rogue strategy. But I also think people are sleeping on Malefics. I think Malefics are gonna be because that's not a good deck, and the support it's getting isn't really that good, but it is good if you splice some Blue Eyes in there too.
Can I say I really regret asking you to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh?
That's fine. Anyway, that was my Yu-Gi-Oh talk. I know none of you cared. Everybody, you should have a.
I thought you said this was gonna be your TED talk.
This has been my TED talk to you guys. You should have like when we put this into a video format, like click this timestamp to skip.
Well, yeah.
To the Yu-Gi-Oh part.
We need to do that anyway.
No, to skip the Yu-Gi-Oh part.
No, the people. That's going to be the only timestamp. It is literally to skip to the Yu-Gi-Oh talk.
Every episode.
No, I'm not doing. This is not a recurring segment, you guys. Oh, also, remember I told you? Did I tell you guys that I bought the Necros deck?
What the fuck is that?
Okay, so
What?
hold on. Back in 2014, a bunch of decks came out. We had Shaddolls, we had Burning Abyss, we had Necros. A lot of crazy, powerful decks came, and Konami couldn't actually make decks compete with them, so they just banned a bunch of their key cards, and to just sort of take them out of competition. And then they did the whole Dragon Ruler spellbook thing, was a disaster. But Necros is I think Necros is the strongest deck that's ever been created. Burning Abyss,
So strong.
it's so strong, my man. Burning Abyss is the deck that never died, but that's because they never lost their key combo piece, which is Dante of the Burning Abyss, Traveler of the Burning Abyss. Necros lost all of their combo pieces, but I recently bought the entire deck. The sort of support.
You know what? That sounds like a really good title for something.
What?
The thing that never died.
It is the deck that never died. And I recently, like a month ago, I bought the Saborg Turbo Tournament Legal Necros deck. Except I thought, you know what? I'll buy 3 of each of the Necros cards. Motherfucker, Konami just gave us Shurit and Brio back. So the 300 or so bucks I spent on this deck, it's now like $600-700 I could make back easy. Because the cards, like, we're getting the greatest deck ever is coming back. It's gonna be so cool. The next time we talk, I might just become the king of games. Like Yuki in the anime.
As long as you believe in the heart of the cards.
As long
You
as...
know what's fucked up? Like, people who play video games have these ongoing discussions for decades about how microtransactions shouldn't affect gameplay and how it's not cool to have pay to win and when pay to win is okay. And then trading card people just fucking shell out $200 to buy the most powerful deck ever to stay competitive.
But it's randomized, right? Like, you don't know what cards you're actually going to get.
Well, you know what cards are in the set.
Something.
Like, this booster pack will have 9 cards, but here are the 80 cards that are in that you can get, and here are the rarities and The only problem with Necros is that they're going to get a reprint soon, and that's why they're so expensive. They haven't gotten a reprint. I don't think they're going to reprint everything. I think Valkyries is going to be unreprinted. That's my sort of hot prediction for all of you YuGiOh heads out there. All 4 of you. You guys should definitely watch YuGiOh 5Ds. just watch season 1. Because the thing is
it the one with the motorcycles?
It's the one with the motorcycles.
Our game's on motorcycles.
Why?
It's super good. It's like Akira meets...
No!
Yes,
No!
yes. It's as good.
No!
It's not as good as Akira, but it's like if Akira met, like... What's a good shonen anime?
Hunter x Hunter?
I haven't seen that one. Is that good? Is that like the greatest thing in the world?
It's good. Hunter x Hunter is kind of good because it breaks a lot of shonen rules.
Okay.
Well, I've never personally seen it. I just know that it's like highly respected. I just know that it's like a really respected shonen.
Yes,
like
it's
everyone
great.
loves it.
YuGiOh
Like,
5Ds. YuGiOh 5Ds. It's like if you took the best of Akira and mixed it with the best of Studio Ghibli movies and mixed that with the best of
Shut the fuck up.
Cowboy Bebop, and then you like doubled it in quality. It's season 1 and maybe season 2. Like everything until they finish the Darksider saga. Then the show kind of turns to crap, with the exception of Crash Town, which is really good. But for a glorious like 50 episodes, it's the best thing in the world.
Where on the Yu-Gi-Oh tier list is Yu-Gi-Oh Academy?
YuGiOh GX.
GX, yes.
The first 100 episodes can fuck off, but once they enter the dark dimension, things get really interesting. And everything past that, everything after season 3 and season 4, I think, are really good. But that show takes
Fuck you,
forever.
I'm not watching this.
You don't watch YuGiOh
No.
GX. YuGiOh GX sucks balls. Watch it if you're 12, but don't try to watch it when you're a grown man. That's not cool. Watch YuGiOh 5Ds though. That show
The real
is
Yu-Gi-Oh
amazing.
for grown men.
That's the YuGiOh for men.
The real Demon Soul starts here.
The real Red Demon's Dragon Souls. Because that's a monster in the game. Red Demon's Dragon. Red Dragon Archfiend.
Oh my god.
It's such... Daniel! Watch the first episode and tell me it's not the greatest thing in the world.
Wait, what?
Just watch the first episode of YuGiOh 5Ds. Watch it with subtitles. Tell me it's not the greatest thing in the world. Just from the first episode.
I can't believe you're making me do this.
Just watch it. Because I'm also super interested in how recommendable is this. Like, what is recommending a Yu-Gi-Oh anime to somebody who knows nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh? What's that like? I'm super interested to see this. Remember, you made me watch that.
Okay.
You made me watch that War in the Pocket. You made me watch it. You recommended me War in the Pocket, and that was great. Now I'm recommending this to you, and it's going to be interesting.
Okay, alright, fair enough.
There's no Yugi. There's no Kaiba. Those characters are all dead.
No!
It's in the future. Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds is far in the future. That's like 100 years from now.
Okay.
But here's
fine.
Here's the sort of here's the sort of hot secret sizzle, Daniel. People theorize that YuGiOh 5D takes place in 2032, and some even think it takes place just 2 years from now. What? Guys, let's talk about YuGiOh lore some more.
I think.
I'm the greatest host this podcast has ever had. What are you talking about? Anyway, that's been my YuGiOh talk. We're never doing this again.
Can we move on, please?
Yes, Chinese food. No. Guys, I had a great bowl of Chinese food. I really wanted to tell you about this.
This was a mistake. This was a mistake.
They gave me like a gold coin, and when I collect 5 of these, I can get a free bowl.
I'm taking back control. Okay, guys, we're gonna go on our break. So please play the smooth music, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. Everyone has their cup of coffee, guys? You got your cups of coffee? Or tea?
Water.
Water is coffee in some capacity.
Well, you can't have coffee without water.
That's true, Daniel. And Bogan, tea is kind of like the coffee of the Orient. Am I right?
The fuck? What?
As you can all see, I wrestled control of the podcast back from Daniel during our break. And
For now.
for now. Permanent host, Aesir Aesthetics. And right now we want to talk about Game of the Generation. But we're not going to tell, like... This is not a top 10 list. We are going to talk more about the sort of criteria and what it truly means to be the Game of the Generation.
Well, talk about yourself, man. I got my game of the generation.
Oh!
For this one and the last one. Okay, I'm all ready.
Okay,
Okay, since you stepped to the plate, motherfucker, go ahead.
So just for
Lay that shit down on the plate.
I guess we are doing...
Can we agree with that when we say generation, we mean console generation? Yeah,
I think that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
But Daniel, I need your opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
What other generation are we going to talk about if we're talking video games? I mean, come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Well,
actually, the G in YuGiOh GX stands for YuGiOh Generation X.
You got me. No,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
You're not going back.
We're not never go back, guys. Okay, what's your top game? Give us your top game. Give us your rationale.
Okay, so my game of the generation for last generation is Dark Souls. My game of the generation for this generation is either Witcher 3 or Breath of the Wild. Personally,
Okay.
Breath of the Wild, but I understand why Witcher 3 would also be up there.
What's your criteria?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to discuss, isn't it?
See, if I were to give the last generation a single game that I would pin it on, I would say Minecraft, because I think it most influenced games. It was the biggest splash. I don't love Minecraft. I don't think it's like
Did
the
it
greatest
influence
thing.
games that much?
Yes, everything became open world. Everything got a crafting system. Everything got it really blew up the indie scene, which is super relevant.
I'm not sure if that was Minecraft though.
I think that was 50% Minecraft. Nah, that's not true. But I think Minecraft did a lot of good things for the indie scene. It really it also gave a voice to, I think, independent developers. And now Notch is on Twitter ranting about, like, some races of people have higher IQs or something like that. I think that was him.
Oh God, are you? Let's not talk about that.
Let's talk about that now. But the criteria, I would say the criteria for, and maybe Minecraft is just the first game that came to my head. I think Dark Souls is much better, but I think the criteria for Game of the Generation is the game that I don't think it's the game that most symbolized what that generation was about, because that would probably be like The Last of Us. I think it's the game that like changed the most. Like the
No,
biggest.
you
don't think so?
If we're talking about the game that represented the generation the most, then that would be Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Because after that,
Oh, you're right. Multiplayer shooters. Oh my god.
because of that game, everything was a first-person shooter and
Brown.
had multiplayer.
Brown, gray, multiplayer for shooters.
See, but that's my issue with just going, this is the game that represented the generation the most, because that's why I pick Breath of the Wild, because it fucking puts everything else to the ground that this generation has in being
I
different
don't know
and
about
being
that.
unique.
See,
In
I
terms
think
of open world games, yeah. And Witcher
I
3
think-
too. Those games are like the milestones of what everything else is trying to be. And they just come along and fuck everything up.
I think Breath of the Wild. I think the only innovative thing about that game is like that weapons degrade. I think I've seen everything else that game has done.
No.
I think everything.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
How is weapon degradation unique to Breath of the Wild?
No, it's not. It's not. No. It's not unique. I'm saying that being as big a part of that game. Like I haven't seen that system in this type of game before.
Okay, I see what you're
Yes,
saying.
number one, the weapon degradation is great in structuring
I love it.
what you do. Number
Also
two,
because
the climbing.
Yeah, the climbing. Okay, I'll give you the climbing. Everything else I've seen somewhere else.
Number three,
I think
you
Breath
see
of the
the
Wild.
castle in the beginning and you can go there immediately.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Like you open up Minecraft, you see a mountain somewhere, you can go you can go straight over there.
I mean, to be fair, I haven't played Minecraft ever. From what I know,
Never.
that game is just like a how do you say?
Oh, I have a confession to make about Minecraft.
Oh, no.
It is the only game that has managed to make me play all through the night.
Well, yeah, it's super addictive.
I remember like playing the game through the night, and it when the sun came up, I was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, is this really happening?" I have not played Minecraft in a long time, but I'll always give the game credit for having that effect on me. It's the only game that's ever done that to me.
But isn't Minecraft like a giant playground and there isn't a real difficulty curve? And a campaign and all that?
There's no campaign.
I mean,
Isn't Minecraft about making your own fun?
yeah, and I was busy making my fucking house or whatever the fuck I was doing. I don't even remember.
But that's why I'm like, that's why I'm
I was so
hesitant.
razor focused.
That's-
I was like, I got this house. I've got this idea in my head of what this house is going to be like. I'm going to fucking make it. And then I did. And then it was 7 a.m.
You know, I think you could make a really compelling argument for Minecraft being the... What's the word I'm looking for? The most thematically perfect game ever created. Because it's only gameplay, and it still manages to tell a story.
Well, it's the story that you want to tell.
It's the story about a man who struggles, and then he sort of overcomes his environment, and then he becomes the master of his environment, right? I think that's the...
I mean,
no.
I mean, unless you're playing in inventor mode and you could just fly around, make whatever the fuck you want.
There are a lot of multiplayer games that can tell stories.
Yeah, but I'm saying Minecraft is the most sort of thematically perfected one. Minecraft isn't a multiplayer. It has multiplayer, but it's not a... Well, I probably would never play that single player again now that I think about it.
But like, the reason why I'm hesitant to call Minecraft a game of the generation is because it's not like it brought out a billion games that are just playgrounds and people stopped having like a structured campaign.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably fair.
I mean, that's why I never was interested in Minecraft in the first place, because it's just that, and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in classic video games.
Okay.
whatever that means. But Minecraft is, to me, was always its own thing.
I'm not trying to say Minecraft is the greatest game ever. I just think it's super interesting. I think it's like weirdly interesting. But I'm really interested to know why Dark Souls.
Because Dark Souls has brought back people's interest in challenge and difficulty, and like it has brought back a lot of positive influences and like level design. What?
I don't know. I mean, I don't disagree, but I don't know if it's been entirely positive. I think that I love Dark Souls.
Oh, God damn it, we're talking about Dark Souls again.
But Dark Souls has irreparably fucked the discourse in terms of difficulty.
Yeah, but that's not Dark Souls' fault.
It's not its fault, per se, but it's still what happened.
But that is, I mean, I understand that that's annoying, but also that's kind of making my point that Dark Souls is for many people like the first really challenging game they ever played, and they don't have any other reference point. But it still is that idea that you sometimes the game needs to make you struggle and it needs to frustrate you, and overcoming that frustration is good. And especially in the seventh generation, I feel like people got very lazy in terms of like games becoming cinematic, automating a lot of mechanics and just not challenging you and streamlining.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Here's my hashtag hot take. Souls games are not challenging. They are punishing. There's a distinct difference.
Yeah.
The actual obstacles that you overcome can be challenging, but they're not as bad as the repercussions of failing. Now, let me put it to you like this. If you could play through Dark Souls and never lose your souls when you died, fucking no one would be saying that these games are hard.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think that's part of what makes the games, like, really well designed. But let's call a spade, right? Like, these games do have challenging moments, right? The bosses are challenging. But it's really the punishment. Like, God Hand is not punishing at all. The punishment for dying is like a slap on the wrist. You don't really lose much. You just have to like restart like that fight or whatever, that section. But God Hand is way more challenging than any Souls game.
Souls
by
games,
far, bar none.
Souls games are really that's a really good point you're raising, that they're punishing, and they do that to slow you down, to sort of get you to pay attention, to get you into the ambience. But here's a question: why Dark Souls and not Demon Souls? Because I would argue Demon Souls is a much better game.
Because Demon Souls was only on the PS3.
Yes, but
it
Demon
didn't
Souls
have the same widespread appeal.
No, that's true. But Demon Souls started the ball rolling. Like
started the ball, yeah. But Dark Souls is the one that everyone like knew about because it was available for more people. And I think also Demon Souls' approach to level design was more linear.
Yeah.
As opposed to the world design of Dark Souls, which is more interconnected. And I think that's another thing that elevated Dark Souls as well. Like, because you don't have that moment in Demon Souls. There's some cool shortcuts, don't get me wrong, but you don't have that moment in Demon Souls that you have in Dark Souls where you loop back to the from the cathedral to the Firelink Shrine. Yeah, to the Firelink Shrine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's what I meant.
But in Demon Souls, for example, I think we've expressed this numerous times that I think we should bring back like world tendency, because I would say yes, absolutely. Please bring it back.
Shit.
No, get good, motherfucker.
So arbitrary.
No. The rules are very simple. Don't die and don't kill anyone. Also, enter in soul form, not in body form, and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, first of all, I don't explain that shit. Second of all, whoops, I died. Okay, I'm fucked.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. bringing back world tendency is fine as long as they actually fucking explain it, because they, like, when I played Demon Souls for the first time, and the world being different for no reason to me just like completely threw me off. And I ended up playing the entire game in soul form as a result, so that like the world tendency wouldn't be affected.
But I don't think. No, I think I'm on the right here. I think you absolutely. I think you don't explain it because I think that makes it more sort of mysterious. Ooh, like who's this weird character who's coming here? I've never seen him before when playing the game.
But it's mysterious, but you have no control over it. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know how to influence it. You don't know how much you have to do to influence it to a point where something changes. It's just...
That's fine.
No, it's not fine.
I
really... I played through fucking Demon Souls 3 times. Every time I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna do something with world tendency. And then I just looked it up and I didn't even bother. Because I was already like 2 levels in, and whatever I wanted to do was fucked.
That's fine. No, wait a minute. What did you want to do? Because you can always redo the worlds. You can always change the world tendencies. In both directions.
Yeah, but I already killed that guy, or I did this, and I died a few times.
Then don't kill anyone. Simple.
No, but I genuinely think I'm making a good point here, that... And that's sort of like, I think my argument is better. No, I think it's super interesting to have this system which changes the way the game plays. Because I think it really adds to the sort of hostile environment. But, you know, I see your point about it being sort of obnoxious since you can't control it. I think we should go back to the essay question, though. So Dark Souls, you would pick that over Demon Souls because bigger and because it was sort of more...
Well, it was definitely more influential.
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, I love both games. I think Dark Souls is still better, but also Dark Souls was my first Souls, so that tells you a lot. Like, that's just your first Dark Souls game is likely going to be your favorite, right?
Daniel told me he liked Dark Souls 2 the most. Anyway, back to the essay question.
I did not. Don't you fucking lie. That's not true. Dark Souls 2 is the worst one. It is the worst one.
But yeah, the Dark Souls, aside from the difficulty, also brought in a lot of the level design. Like, I feel like people got better at understanding good level design thanks to Dark Souls.
Dark Souls is the first game where people noted level design. And when people talk about good level design these days, they always talk about Dark Souls. I think you could make a really compelling argument for Dark Souls being the game of the generation just by pointing out how many times Dark Souls is referenced in game reviews versus how many times like Minecraft is or The Last of Us is or Call of Duty is. Like, it's always...
Crash Bandicoot is
the
suddenly
new Dark Souls. Oh my god, it's the new Dark Souls because I died once. I think
Cuphead is now Dark Souls.
Yeah, because... No, I think that could be a really good argument for it being the game of the generation, because it is the new standard by which everything is judged. Even games which don't have any business being compared to Dark Souls are getting compared to Dark Souls.
So, let's take that idea for a second then. What will be the game that future games will be judged against?
Ooh.
Well, I mean, that depends on the genre.
Well, apparently not for Dark Souls.
I guess you're right. I mean, okay, ideally, that's how it should be, but
that's why I say Breath of the Wild or Witcher 3, because, okay, Witcher 3, I think, is more of a reference point for open world games.
Yeah, I think it's probably more Witcher 3 than Breath of the Wild, but I don't know. I don't think those games are iterative enough for them to really just, this is the new thing. Like Dark Souls, that was the new thing. It was such an anachronism of the time. Like, oh, cutscenes that tell you the story? Lol, nope, none of that. Oh, okay, I guess I'll just walk here. I guess I wanna meet Gwyn. Like, it really changed the way you interact with a game, because you have to be so proactive about everything you do there. You can't really be lazy when you play the game. Like, oh my god, I'm cursed right now. I guess I'll just lose half my health. No, now you need to go out into the world and you need to actually learn how to get rid of a curse. Or just Google it. But I think the next game that's going to be the reference point, I don't think we've gotten it yet. Or I don't think it's become big enough for us to realize that it's it yet. I think it's going to be a game that like totally changes everything.
Well, kind of by that logic, the next game is PUBG, right?
No, not really, because we had seen that before. We had seen like DayZ and games experiment with that.
Well, but we have seen Dark Souls. We have seen Demon Souls before Dark Souls, and we said Dark Souls
but not on the same scale. Not on the scale where everyone is comparing it to that.
Hold on a second, because there is a difference between saying that like what is the most influential game or what is the most like the game that represents the generation the most, and the game that we want to win the spot, you know? Like, we say we want Dark Souls to win the spot because, yeah, it's a great game and all that. But the fact of the matter is, there are arguably more influential games. But the thing is, those are games that we don't play. Those are games that we don't like, so we ignore them.
Oh, Candy Crush.
Like Candy Crush.
God damn it. No, we're talking about console generations here. The game has to be on a console.
What the point I'm trying to make is we haven't clearly defined what game of the generation is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
So are we talking about?
Okay, let me put it this way: Breath of the Wild is maybe not everything is judged against it, like in terms of new open world games coming out. But to me, every open world game like just pales in comparison to, and it's not like Breath of the Wild is perfect, but to me it's like the logical conclusion of what the genre strives to be in a lot of ways. Because people understand that you need to get rid of the objectives thrown everywhere and like the checklist shit that you go through in a game like Spider-Man. And I mean, maybe in like 1 or 2 years, games will be more like Breath of the Wild.
I haven't seen enough changes in the games coming out currently to reflect that.
Yeah.
No. I would also make that argument though for Morrowind. I think Morrowind did open world much better. Even though that was super clunky.
But Morrowind is an RPG.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's still a video game.
Why would it not be a video game?
No, what do you mean it's an RPG?
Also, like, okay, we can have the talk if Morrowind is the game of its generation.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot we were talking about nothing. I'm just having a brain fart here. I've had a lot of bad food today.
What generation was Morrowind?
2003. PlayStation 2?
Yeah, Xbox.
6th generation?
It was on the Xbox.
It's not the game of the 6th generation.
Okay,
that's
but that's a good question, right? What was the game of the PS2 generation?
Well, here's
the easy answer is like Shadow of the Colossus or Snake. What were you going to say, Daniel?
What I'm trying to say is also what might be an influential game in one side of the market may not necessarily be influential in another. So, like, Half-Life was very influential for PC games, but around that same time, it had no effect on the PC market. I mean, the console market. I'm sorry.
The console market.
The console market.
Yeah, sure.
So,
that's true.
I think what I'm trying to say is I don't think we can definitively say what game is truly game of the generation, just because the industry and the markets are just so disparate that like there isn't going to be that one encompassing game that can be determined as game of the generation.
Or if it can, I think you're right.
So my counter to that then would be, if you want to say a game is the game of the generation, it's going to have to be for more personal reasons. Just because you can't there's no way to like make like a cogent argument that would make sense of like this is the game that represents the PS3 360 era of gaming, right? Like, well, what about the Wii? What about PC? What about mobile?
That's true. You could probably say game engine of the generation. That's always going to be Unreal. Unreal 2, Unreal 3, Unreal 4.
So with that in mind, though, like if we're talking about like a more personalized definition of game of the generation, then like for me, if we're going back to like PS2 or something, that'd be Devil May Cry 3. That game defined that generation for me. Like I
Really?
probably played Devil May Cry 3 more than almost any other game. Like I bought both versions, the original and the special edition version, and I've replayed it, the HD version, both on the PS3 and the PC version.
But what would you say would be the most sort of iterative game if we went that route of the PS2 generation? Like, what game do you think, not iterative, what do you think is like the most impactful in terms of how games went moving forwards?
For PS3?
PS2.
For PS2. See, I don't think there is one. I can't think of any game. It's because it's not like the N64 where like I could easily tell you game of the generation, Ocarina of Time. I don't even like.
I would disagree.
Why?
I would say that's I would say Metal Gear Solid. Because every game became Metal Gear Solid. Not every game became Ocarina of Time.
On the N64 they did.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's the generation.
And that's part of...
I'm saying games moving... No, I'm saying from the criteria of what changed games the most moving forwards, I would say Metal Gear Solid had a much bigger impact than Ocarina of Time.
I don't know if I agree with that. Fucking Itagaki, the director of Ninja Gaiden, said that his greatest inspiration was Ocarina of Time. Do you see anything Ocarina of Time related in Ninja Gaiden? I certainly don't. But that guy said...
No,
that's what that guy said.
But
and
Ninja Gaiden doesn't sell 10 million copies. Battlefield and Call of Duty do that.
Sure.
Although, you know what? They probably take more after like the old Tom Clancy games, like Rainbow Six.
But
Now that I think about it.
But I feel like if you ask a lot of developers what they were inspired by, I think a lot of developers, especially if they grew up with Ocarina of Time, would tell you Ocarina of Time. Even if their games don't end up being like the most successful, I think it's still fair to say that Ocarina of Time had a huge impact.
Yeah, I absolutely think it had a huge impact. I think it probably inspired a lot more developers, but I think more games became Metal Gear Solid than became Ocarina of Time. Regardless of what their developers...
More popular games.
Intended.
More popular games.
Yeah, more popular games. And, well, that's another interesting thing we sort of need to discuss. We can't just say... See, how do you gauge an impact without just saying what's most popular? Because we can't really have that conversation now that I think about it, because then we just have to say Candy Crush.
Like,
see, I just thought about it, and maybe, like when I say Dark Souls, it's a game that kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of people and changed the way people thought about games, and then it became the new reference point. Like it came out of nowhere and did something incredibly well, and did it like just had a massive influence. I think you can say the same about Witcher 3. That game surprised people, and it became kind of a new reference point. I think you can say the same about Metal Gear and then Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's maybe... that would be my suggestion, like those three general criteria of just doing something new and crazy and then doing it so well that it becomes a massive influence that everything is judged against. It becomes
the new standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It probably should be, this is a game of the generation, not like it's the game. Because there probably can't ever just be one game of the generation.
Like, Daniel, the point you made it's perfectly true that different games influence different markets and all that. So maybe there doesn't need to be one, but I'm against doing this on a completely personal level. like
Okay.
what we played the most or something.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
So
I mean,
maybe it's Ocarina and Metal Gear.
I was more so trying to say like, because game of the generation, I think it's still fair to say like it can be a personal thing, right? Like, because what you
absolutely.
what you played growing up is your game of the generation, of that generation, because that's what had the most influence on you. And if you were
Absolutely.
and that's the case for a lot of developers, right? Like, that's why I was arguing strongly for Ocarina of Time, because maybe you could probably argue that Metal Gear Solid had more influence, but for a lot of developers growing up, Ocarina of Time had more influence on them than Metal Gear Solid, and that had a huge effect on the industry as a result.
Absolutely.
So I still think there's value in having like at least a distinction between like what your personal game of the generation was versus like, I guess maybe objective. I don't know, a more objective game of the generation. I don't even know if you can really say that.
Pseudo objective.
I hate bringing that terminology into discussion because it just fucks things up. But I think you get what I'm trying to get at.
We're trying to be objective, but we're obviously not, because none of us would ever say Fortnite is the game of this generation.
Well, none of us.
What are you talking about? You can do a dab.
None of us in here would say that. But
it's also
true objectivity can't be reached.
None of us in here.
No.
Like,
and this is way too broad a question to really try to approximate objectivity. I think we found from this conversation. Or at least it's we can't approximate it with what we've been talking about so far. Because the criterias are so dispersed that no game could fill every one of them.
right.
And like, how do you measure, well, this game fills these three, this game fills these two, but these two are maybe more important? Like, that has to be subjective as well. So, in the end, it kind of falls in on itself. I think saying that what sets the standard going forward is a really good way to put it. But I think you can't really go any... Like, after saying that, I think it just has to be, like, a gut feeling. I don't know if you can get any more sort of...
Right, I don't think I don't think you can really get objective with this because we're talking about games that influence people. That's entirely subjective.
I also think there's a difference...
Obviously, you can't get it objective, but okay, intersubjectivity. We kind of seem to agree that Dark Souls is probably the game of its generation.
Between the three of us, feeling. Sure.
Yeah. And
but then...
it's not just we three personally played a lot of Dark Souls. We also think there are arguments to be made about its impact and that a lot of people feel about it that way. It's not objective, but we're still trying to reach like a critical distance to what we're talking about.
Sure.
So in
PS2.
the end...
And
PS2? Ooh. If we had to give sort of... Maybe like... Probably Resident Evil 4. The sort of over-the-shoulder shooter.
the thing, no, because if anything, Resident Evil 4 affected the generation that came after.
Yeah, I'm saying it sort of influenced... I'm saying that became sort of the new standard moving forward.
Yeah,
like Dark Souls.
But if I'm locking it...
8th generation games.
But that's kind of a weird... a weird way of putting it, though, because Resident Evil 4 can't be game of its generation if its main influences went on in the next generation. Because it didn't...
I think it can.
Because that means it didn't... Because that means it didn't have effect in its own generation. So how can it be game of the generation?
But it came out so late... It came out so late during its own generation. I think if we say the criteria solely is what set the standard, you could make a strong argument for RE4.
Yeah, I
agree
with that.
If you lock it completely within that single generation as like what is the most best representation of that generation, probably it's like
I think if anything, this is proving how arbitrary the entire discussion is.
I think so.
Maybe yeah, it should be either like the Trailblazer category and the best representative category.
Yeah. and even then, it's still rot. I think people should be a lot more open in general. Just like changing the subject a bit, people should stop trying to look for objectives in this stuff. Just it's perfectly fine to have a subjective opinion and then to disagree with it. Like, yeah, this guy likes this game. I don't really like it, but that's okay because we aren't defined by our tastes so much.
No, but people want to put the word objective in their arguments because it makes them feel like what they're saying has more weight.
Daniel, you're objectively wrong. Totally destroyed. In capital letters on the thumbnail. Aesir destroys Daniel with facts and logic.
Oh, God.
I hate those.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that objectivity has no place. Of course it does. But that's the thing, right? You need both. This idea that you're either being objective or subjective is completely ridiculous. You need objectivity to base your subjective arguments on. That's how it works.
You need to have some kind of standard that it applies to more than just you, the argument that you're making.
I also think that it's good when a group can come to sort of an agreement, which they sort of like, yeah, we will agree that this sort of represents objectivity within our group. Like
that's called intersubjectivity.
Yeah, intersubjectivity. Is what the name? Intersubjectivity.
Yes.
English major McKee over here. Yeah, I think those can be super healthy, so long as it doesn't become like, I don't know, insular and like you can't think outside the box anymore. But like I think everyone would agree, like, oh, Shadow of the Colossus, it's an amazing game.
Yeah, but Shadow of the Colossus didn't like that.
It did not.
A very
it did
unique
not.
game, and nothing that came out after it is like it.
No, nothing.
But
the only thing that like Shadow of the Colossus inspired like that what was it called? Rhyme or something?
Okay, but
about that boy on the island.
But you also you do realize
oh, I only saw the trailer.
You do realize that the director of The Last of Us is a huge Fumito Ueda fanboy.
Oh, Neil Druckmann.
Yeah. So
yeah, but that's kind of the Ocarina of Time argument again, where the game inspired the developer, but the game he made is nothing like that.
But at the same time, that's what I was talking about before, right? Where you can't. It
absolutely did inspire.
It did. Now it's hard
that's true.
It's hard for us to really understand how and how it reflects in the game. But the fact of the matter is, that's how he felt, and he's not wrong to think that way. I mean, that's the game that impacted him, and it influenced his decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that Shadow of the Colossus didn't really influence games directly, because I would agree it's, in my opinion, the best game of its generation.
I think it's because, and I think Matthew Matosis put it best, if anyone even tried to copy those games, like, it would come across as such a pale imitation that like nobody wanted to even try.
Is it that there is no room? Like it did what it wanted to do pretty much perfectly, and you can either copy it and then your copy, or it's difficult to advance that idea.
Wait, I just remembered. A game is out on early access right now called Pray for the Gods, and it is super fucking Shadow of the Colossus inspired.
Is that the game
I actually backed that on Kickstarter.
Is that the game which was designed by old Team Ecom members?
I don't think so.
Because they left during the production of The Last Guardian when it stalled and they made some game?
No.
I don't know if it's out yet.
No, the developers...
This is not it.
The developers look like they were American.
They're Western, yeah. But yeah, I kickstarted that game. I didn't look at anything from it because I just want to be surprised when it's out.
Well,
oh yeah, this looks super Shadow of the Colossus.
It is.
I'm just looking at.
But they pretty much said it's a Shadow of the Colossus clone with some new mechanics. Like there's a grappling hook in there.
Yeah, so technically you can play it right now, but
it's early access.
It's early access.
I think though, to answer the question about like why you can't make that, I think it's because, like with Soulsborne-like games, it's just you're copying exactly what the game does instead of looking kind of past the actual thing you're doing in those games, which is like riding a horse and fighting giant monsters. to the sort of, and you're like, with Dark Souls, for example, it's about going slowly through the environment and sort of being immersed, and then these sort of high octane fights, like not complex, but like good enough to get you sort of really involved in the world. And if you take that model and you apply new mechanics to it, like try to express it differently than Dark Souls did, you can absolutely take the ethos of those games and do something completely different. You look at like, these are both Fumito Ueda games, but The Last Guardian and Shadow of the Colossus, they feel like you feel them. There is something resonant about them, even though they aren't anything the same when you're playing them. But like the feeling is there. And I don't think it's just from similar visuals. I think there is some underlying holisticness.
There's a certain effervescence to these games, right? Like there's that Fumito Ueda fingerprint on them. You can't quite, ironically, put your finger on what that is, but there's something about his games that you just look at them.
There's something
and you know it.
There's something about the way it all connects together.
You just look at his games,
it sort of weaves.
And you know that's Fumito Ueda. That's his design.
See, I think to get even more specific, I think you can completely change the art style of The Last Guardian, and you could play it and still know like, oh, this feels like this feels like the Shadow of the Colossus on some level. Because it's so quiet, it
could be cell shaded, and you could still feel Fumito Ueda's fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, you could do a game which like has as much quiet time as Shadow of the Colossus had. You can do all those things without it being about riding a horse and killing monsters, while being inspired by Shadow of the Colossus. It's a really clunky way of saying that.
I think this whole discussion has been clunky. But I think we came to some interesting conclusions, though.
Yeah. So, game of the generation, take your pick. Find a way to phrase your criteria for that, and then give your argument. And then, if somebody says you're wrong, you can just say, I don't care.
Clearly, it's plumbers don't wear ties.
My man, I will fight you in packs. Is that a real game? Plumbers don't wear ties?
Yes. It absolutely is.
An AMV game. FMV? What is it?
FMV.
FMV.
I think if it was an AMV game, that would have made it Game of the Decade.
Another game.
Anime
music video. Oh, fuck.
What's FMV then?
Full motion video.
Ooh. We've had the conversation, but I would argue that another game that could have been the 7th generation is Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Because, like, a lot of horror games took after that, especially on the indie scene, where it's like, you can't fight back, and you have to run from the monsters and gather some information and move between different areas.
You cut out there. Did you say Amnesia?
Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Yeah, because it had, like, a similar type of effect, where everything mimicked it for a little while. Everything in its own sphere, I should say.
Yeah, in its sphere, sure.
But I also think a lot of those games sort of lost... I think Amnesia works really well, but I don't think many of its clones do, for the same reason so many Soulsborne games don't work really well, because that sort of...
Neo worked.
Yeah, I haven't played Neo. I heard that's a great game, but the heart of those games, it doesn't transfer over. It's just the mechanics. You just copy the mechanics without really knowing why those mechanics were designed the way they were and balanced the way they were. Yeah. You create a new game, and it just won't click the same.
That's one point I wanted to bring up that kind of came to me earlier. Is you can copy a game like Dark Souls mechanically, but when you copy it in intention, the influence can become almost not. It's like you can't feel the influence anymore, but it's definitely there. Like in terms of, I feel like Dark Souls inspired a lot of game developers to bring out games that don't push the story forward. Like they had a different approach to exposition. A lot of games came out that don't have any dialogue at all, and people try to tell stories without directly telling them through environmental storytelling and all that.
Going back. Yeah, continue. I'll say this later.
Yeah, no, that's just, it's difficult to see Dark Souls in something like Gorogoa, but I think it's there.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, it's also hard to gauge what exactly about the game inspired the developer, because you could look at the games Neil Druckmann has directed and say, oh, that Shadow of the Colossus, like Uncharted 2 and The Last of Us and Uncharted 4, that's Shadow of the Colossus because it has these sweeping vistas and you sort of get lost in the imagery. You could definitely make that argument and you wouldn't be wrong. I don't think that's what those games are about, but it could be that's like one way he tries to emulate those games. Also, those games also are very much about companionship, but I feel like this conversation is getting really weird. Getting really far, I should say.
Well,
from
we didn't
actual
solve the
topic
game of
as
the
a
generation
topic.
question in the podcast. God damn.
Well, I think we did do was pretty much explain that there can't really be a game of the generation. We kind of just settled on Dark Souls, but I don't think we can even really definitively say Dark Souls is game of the generation. I think game of the generation isn't really a goal to strive for. I don't really think... I think people should just focus on making good fucking games. And if it happens to create a new standard, then that's cool.
That's just cool.
Yeah. But I think first and foremost, a developer's goal should just be to make whatever drives them.
Once again, the Essays and Espresso cast has reached the conclusion that objectivity, get it out of here. Subjectivity, it's fine.
I would actually say
7 out of 10.
I would say to amend that. I would say we need both. You can't have subjectivity without some objectivity, and vice versa.
Yeah, you need some objectivity. You need standards. How do you know a deceased body from a live body if you don't have objectivity? From a healthy body, I should say. I'm such a good host, you guys. You should definitely let me continue hosting this podcast.
No. Maybe 10 episodes from now.
Grumbly Daniel disagrees. The fans will decide. In the comments, tell us. They probably were going to pick you, Daniel. They don't like their discussions to loop around. I just realized the entire discussion, it was like a Dark Souls level. It all looped around. And it went into weird places. Guys, someone stop me.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
It rhymes. Dark Souls is the key to all of this. Because it's objectively the best game of the generation. It's objectively the better game we've had. I'm done. I'm so done.
That's what we agreed upon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you guys doing this week? Is that a part of this podcast? Is that usually how we end?
What I'm doing this week?
We end the episode by asking that, right? I feel like we do.
No, we talk about what we're planning on making next.
Oh, that's right. I remember now. I'm gonna do my KOTOR video. I finally got a script ready. Gonna do a dirty edit.
Ooh, dirty.
You get less enthused. Just a quick dirty edit, you know.
How long is it gonna be?
It seems like it's gonna be an hour. I'd like to get it down to like 15
crazy.
minutes, though.
You just
That is
finished
crazy.
those games.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot in the script, so I just want to get a rough edit out so I can see, like, okay, this is what the video looks like. I want it to look like this. Now I know what to change. Because it's really hard. People who don't make videos, this is just a tip for you. If you decide to make videos, do a script, do like a video, watch it, and then review it. Don't try to fix the video while it's in script form, because it's not going to be the same. I feel like. See, I got that's Bell from Boken. That was a representative of me getting something right, I believe. Or maybe he dropped a spoon. What are you guys planning on making next?
Well, I've had a bunch of ideas for videos, but I've kind of realized that, like, I have that one Tales of Asteria thing in particular that I've been, like, sitting on for a while, and I've decided, you know what, I'm just going to hunker down, I'm just going to finish it instead, because I have a bad habit of, like, just, like, getting ideas and then, like, just going in different directions, and I'm like, you know what, I just need to focus, so I'm just gonna try and get the Asteria one done as soon as I can. The script is currently 75% done, roughly speaking. It's divided into 4 distinct parts. So the first part is going over the level design. The second part is going over the combat. And the third part is going over character progression systems. The fourth part is going to be talking about, like, the story and the characters and the general writing. So the first 3 parts are done. And that fourth part, I just need to, like, go through the game's cutscenes again. I'm going to jot down some notes, and then I'm going to finish up that section. And then I can finally make the video.
Sweet. Bogan? What you got going?
I finished the script I was talking about last time. And I also started working on my Gorogoa story, the analysis and interpretation. I kind of feel like, quite frankly, I don't know, you guys probably don't know my Nostalgia Check series.
Yes, I do, actually. You did a one on Silver.
Yes.
Aha.
And I kind of want to do one, like, just randomly that popped into my head on Kirby's Dream Course.
The golf game?
Yes.
Cool.
What?
I fucking remember that game very fondly, and I want to check out if it's actually as good as I remember it.
I played some of it
awesome.
with my nephew, and we had fun with it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a hidden gem, honestly. If it's as good as I remember. Like, I didn't even play it back then. I played it, like, maybe 8 years ago or something. And I was astounded by it.
So this isn't when you were, like, 6 years old and everything was cool.
No.
Oh.
But it has been a while since I played it. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll play it for the next podcast.
Ooh. Maybe.
Yeah, anyway, I also, like, I started a full-time job now. And being a normie fucking sucks.
Welcome to the club.
So yeah, I have a lot less time on my hands now. And I think maybe I'll hire someone to edit my shit from now on. Because why not?
Yeah.
Okay, no opinions on that.
I mean, it's
fine.
I mean,
know, man.
You do you, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to pay them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the point. I have more money now, but less time, so...
Do they get paid with exposure? Surely.
No, I would never do that. But it's... I mean, I've spent a lot of time on, like, Street Fighter, and I played a lot of Path of Exile, and I really got into those games, but those don't make good videos.
Don't you have, like, 5,000 subscribers? 5?
No, I have
How many do you?
3,500.
You should just tell them, like, oh, I have this many subscribers. You'll get paid in exposure. I might mention you in the video. I'll mention you in the description of the video. Don't do that.
No, of course not.
So yeah, that's I think that's the episode. I think we've cranked out another one, boys.
I think this is the longest
Put it
one.
into the oven. Put it in. Yeah, I think people are gonna definitely feel how we're burning, like we're really running on fumes at the end. Put it in the oven, baby. Put a fork in it. We're done. Tune in next week or next week after that, whenever we upload these. When you hear Daniel talk about episode 1 and maybe the entire season 1 of YuGiOh 5Ds, if it's good enough to keep his attention. Are you gonna watch it? You don't have to. You absolutely don't have to. I don't want to subjugate you to something you aren't gonna like.
I mean,
but I think
one episode. I could do one
think,
episode. I could do one episode.
Okay. I'm not trying to get you into something you don't like here. I actually think this show stands on its own. I think it's good enough where you can put all the childish card game crap aside, it still works because the characters are so well written. Maybe watch 10 episodes.
I thought you said 1.
Nah, one should be fine. And if it's good, like if you like episode 1, watch until episode 5. I think that's where the show sort of, like the first 5 episodes are a great introduction.
That's when it gets good. And then for the next 90 episodes, it gets bad. And it gets good again.
I would say that like the first 5 episodes are a very rapid escalation of stakes, and it like reaches a high point at episode 5, and then the story sort of slows down, lets you get sort of, okay, now that we fast tracked you into this world, let's slow down a bit and like move you to the players, set up all the motives, and it's still good. It doesn't get bad, it just gets slower, and I still think it's good.
I'll
you just need to watch
one episode, and then I'll tell you what I think about that one episode on the next episode of the podcast.
Well, the first one. Don't jump into just any episode. What's the first one?
Obviously, the first one. I'm not gonna jump into episode 50 and be like, "What the hell's going on?"
You guys are all recording, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Me too. Just checking. Alright, that's the episode. And this is the point where we sign away. Have a good day.
Alright.
You're supposed to say your goodbyes.
Goodbye. Don't worry, I'll be host again.
Don't worry, he'll be host again.
Goodbye.